Hey, Deyan.
Hey, Johnny.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Good. So, yeah, it's good to sit down and just review some of the stuff that we're kind of working in technology on a day-to-day basis. And one of the topical themes right now is GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. And I thought it'd be useful if we just spent a few minutes talking through some basics of security, really, just to try and kind of put GDPR in context, and then talk about one of the requirements of GDPR, which is about breach notification. But obviously, in order to notify the authorities of a breach, you need to
First
be
know about the
monitoring
breach
and detecting. So let's talk about security basics, though, to begin with, because I guess a lot of people have a semblance of security in place in terms of having antivirus and having some sort of a firewall in place, but they still get breached, or they still have attacks on their networks. So I wonder if you could kind of just tell us a little bit about why this happens. You know, what is it that makes these initial basic steps that people undertake, what makes them still vulnerable?
Just the nature of the game, Jean. If we have to be completely frank about it, the security world is a cat and mouse game. It's always chasing, and the good guys are always the one doing the chasing. So if you just rely on whatever tools you used a couple of years ago, or even before that,
right,
and this could not be sufficient anymore. It's still a large percentage, maybe more of the half of the firewalls out there are just stateful firewalls, which is a technology that is 2 decades old. It's not relevant anymore to the current modern threat landscape. The same goes with some of the antivirus that are out there. You cannot just have an isolated antivirus that just relies on signature and basic heuristics to try to detect the latest threats. What is happening is you need your security controls to be more intelligent and to have context with what's going on in the network in order to properly identify the threats for you.
Right, okay. So the interesting point there, let's take the antivirus one first of all. So antivirus generally is signature based, yes? So that relies on the provider of that antivirus software to have visibility of an attack and actually be able to identify that signature.
This attack should have been seen. SV should be created for it, and they create the signature, push the signature, but the signatures are no longer really a valid option, because a signature is a hash, it's a fingerprint. So if you change even a smallest piece of code, one bit, the signature will change. So most modern antivirus are a bit smarter. They're splitting the file and looking at the executables and trying to fingerprint different parts of it, just to try to detect a string of malicious code, not looking at the whole file by itself. But this is still not enough. Even some of the advanced ones now are doing the sandboxing thing, and they send the file online and wait for it to detonate and to see what it's going to do. If that file is unknown. But the threat that the malware is getting smarter. Modern malware will try to recognize if it's in a virtual environment, if it's being sandboxed, and it will not detonate. It will stay benign. So then it will be allowed into the network, and then when it detects a real environment, it will start doing the malicious stuff that it's supposed to do. And it's very easy for the malware to understand it. It first looks for signs that is running in a virtual environment, and then it looks for actions. So if there is nobody clicking or inputting something on that machine, it's getting suspicious. So it wouldn't do anything.
So what? Even the malware is getting suspicious.
Yeah, the malware is getting suspicious. Like, something's going wrong. This is not this operating system.
This is not what I expected.
I would not detonate now. I'll not do anything. No, it is. It's like I said, a cat and mouse game. So, but if you have more context. That's why I mentioned context. For example, you know that you download this malware for a site that doesn't have a good reputation but is still allowed. If you know that it's getting to a server that is really important, or to a PC in your network, then you might grade this kind of communication as a high risk, and have any kind of more precise actions that you want to do, such as block it, log it, raise an alarm, or something like that. It is that's why I mentioned it's important to have the control. Also, and it's not enough just to have a separate malware, like anti-malware detection tool, and a separate, completely independent and not integrated infrastructure or network, IPSs and IDSs. I believe that these things should start to talk to each other. This is exactly what's providing and driving the context and the decisions.
Right. Okay.
After that.
So the danger is there that you could have a number of different tools that, in their own right, actually provide a good semblance of protection, but if they're not able to communicate and exchange information, and
you're missing the contextual information.
Right.
Exactly. And then the other danger with having these multitudes of tools is having to manage all of them and to look at the logs and operate them. Of course, you need a log retention, but think about the logs. If it's an avalanche of logs, then a lot of things might slip by, or you don't need the human processing power just to siphon through these logs. So again, not having logs is really bad. Having logs that cannot be read is not much better though. So you have to have targeted logs that make sense.
So you have targeted logs, but I guess you will need some form of automation in terms of analyzing these logs and actually being able to flag the high priority ones that you need.
Yes, you need your security controls actually to do that for you, because there is not a single human being that can sit all day and just look at thousands of logs and trying to identify one single line that will show you a potential breach or something.
Right. Okay. All right. So basically, we need context. We need logging. We need intelligent logging and automated. And in terms of the firewall, obviously the firewall can partake in that context, but presumably, you mentioned that for firewalls we need some form. I mean, I know next generation firewall is kind of a word that's been thrown out there. Maybe you could touch on that a little bit and tell us what
the next generation now is the current generation. So I think they soon change this naming. It is the legacy firewalls and the current generation. But definitely the firewalls, or firewall is a simple word because it was used just to do some kind of basic filterings between segments. Now firewalls are doing so much more stuff. They're doing advanced techniques of detection and protection against threats. They're even doing the sandboxing. That can also be done on the endpoint, but they're doing it as a front barrier just to make sure that whatever they let go into the inside of the network is already considered safe and secure. Some of the firewalls even doing basic protection from denial of service attacks. So there is a lot of different functionality that is now combined in this advanced firewall that most of the current big vendors or top vendors in the security quadrant are offering.
Okay. So next generation firewall, some kind of intelligent logging, and anti-malware basically that is able to work in a contextual sense. Are the components that we really need to be looking at to advance the kind of security controls that
definitely it's a combination of all of this, and of course also the human factor behind it. So what are the typical things that could be attacked? Is the infrastructure or your endpoints? If it's a client endpoint or a server endpoint, it's a bit different, but still an endpoint. And the next branch in the chain is the human, the user behind it. So the users also need some kind of basic training into the meaning of security and why we should be aware of security.
Right.
Basic things that you should do and not do.
Okay, thanks for that, Deyan. Okay, so we're going to finish off there. There is one question that I'm really curious about, though, which is totally off track in terms of what we're discussing at the moment. Now, I know that Talos, which is the Cisco kind of security team, they have this blog called the Beer Club. Yeah.
No.
And I see that you've got something there called, is it Mikola Beer Club?
No, that's different.
Is this kind of something that you security guys have a liking for? Beer?
No, probably yes, but this is a different kind of cup. It's for beers.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with security. I apologize about.
No, you don't need to apologize. It's just curiosity. All right, thanks very much, Deyan.
Thank you.
Okay.